Hello everybody and welcome back to Juno New Origins, where last episode we proved that this is a theoretically viable design for some very strange reason. But we also know that it doesn't have enough fuel, and we don't know if it will still be viable if it does have enough fuel. So first things first, I want to duplicate this guy, and this is not really the positioning I want it to be. The snapping is really not great there, but let's just move this out to be about here or so, and then I'm going to duplicate it again, and we're going to put this out over here. Okay, so something like that. Now what I want to do is I want to take this position, and the X position is 0.5, so this should be about 1, and then this position should be about 1.5, like that, approximately. Although these were, like, linked together for some strange reason. Ah, I see. It put it on top of the other one. Okay, so this should be at 1.5 or so. And the Y position here, the Y position will be the same for all of them. That's fine. The Z position needs to be grabbed, so we're going to do that, and we're going to do that. Now, I think we can probably spread these out a little bit further, so I'm going to call this like 1.7, which would mean that this one should be at 1.1, which it basically is, but right about there. Okay, now we can duplicate it again, and this is going to go out on this side, right? So I'm going to do 1, and then I'm not going to have this be attached here. We're going to attach this like back here. Select that in movement mode, and we're just going to position that out here. Now, the Z position needs to be exactly the same as the others, and this X position would be minus 1.1, and we know that this one would be minus 1.7, like that. Then what we can do is we can duplicate these guys and just lock them in like this, and that'll give us the fuel that we need here, but this is not quite at the positioning that we want. So this position is on the Z-axis, minus 0.71. Okay, so we would do the same here, and the same here, and then the same here, and the same here. Now, these are intended to be drop tanks that as they empty, we would stage them, and they would drop. So we could go any direction we wanted to here, as long as it's symmetrical. So I think that the first thing that we would look to do is we would look to set the priority for these. So the priority here is 2. I'm going to go from the outside in, so I'm going to set this to 4, I'm going to set this to 3, and then this will be 3, and this will be 4. So it should drain from the higher priority tanks first, within a same tank set. I don't know if our tank set is set up, but for now, we're going to want to activate our engines in the first stage, and then we're going to want to have these interstages and these landing legs. That's reasonably fine. We're going to want to break this into 3 stages, though. So we're going to want to have a stage here and a stage here, and we're going to want this to go from the outside in. So stage 2 is going to be this interstage and this interstage here. So this stage would go, I think, here, and then this one would go here, and then these two would go into here and here, like that. Now the question is, are we going to be draining fuel correctly? We want to drain from these tanks first. So we'll see if that ends up working. Let's go ahead and save this craft and put this out on the pad. Okay. And then we'll need to get this thing up in the air again, which is, you know, exciting. We'll see how that ends up going. So let's throttle this up and let's stage. And then the question is, are we pulling fuel from these and not from these? Okay, so I'm noticing this is 16.2 tons of fuel. That's the exact same amount of fuel as it's showing for all of these. Okay. Yes, we are pulling from this first. Okay, beautiful. So that's working correctly. Now, of course, we're going to need to take off here. So I want to just keep us going straight. I'm not going to attempt to aim up. We're going to use the drop-off up here. But of course, this thing does like to drift side to side quite a lot on the ground. Our previous plane had this issue as well, remember. Okay, so we're just heading off this way, and ooh. So we lost an interstage there on takeoff, and I'm not sure where that actually was. Yeah, we need to retry that. So we had we had one of those physics bugs where the wheel clips into the ground and then it shoots out at a really, really high speed. That was unfortunate. So I want to keep this guy pinned open for now. And this is showing us all tanks in set. I want selected tank. There we go. So is this tank going to be enough to get us off the ground? I think it will. Man, this thing really likes to spin when it's on the ground. Okay. We're heading off this direction. I guess this is fine. Okay. So we had a slight issue there where we took off the ground. I'm not sure what parts exploded, to be honest. I'm really, really not sure what parts exploded there. Did they matter? I'm not entirely convinced that they did. Okay, so let's go ahead and set ourselves up with our heading being about here. And then our overall pitch, I'm going to put at about 20 degrees. We know that that held reasonably okay-ish. Okay, so something kind of like that. Cool. Letting ourselves even out a bit. And you can see here, this tank still at 37%. All of these other tanks, untouched. So that is looking like it's draining fuel correctly. That's a good sign. I want to set up our overall size here. There we go. Now let's take this up to 2x speed. So the question is, with this additional fuel, do we have enough? So this got us off the ground. And we're going to be ditching this fuel shortly. There we go. So that tank is gone. Fantastic. Next up, of course, is these sets of tanks. They're going to take a little while to drain. So we can just pin that open for the time being. And in terms of our overall directionality, this seems pretty okay. I still don't know what parts were deleted when we took off. I don't notice anything down here missing. So there's that. We should probably... Oh, okay. Our solar panels broke when I tried to extend them, so apparently solar panels can't withstand those sort of aero forces. That's okay. We've got this solar panel. It'll be fine. Cool. So we can see that we're at about 40% fuel on this drop tank. Now, keep in mind that we've still got this tank here, which we didn't have as jet fuel previously. So we've got these two additional tanks, and then we've got this one as an additional tank. But those aren't drop tanks, right? None of these over here are drop tanks. It's just these 6. So far, so good. We're just traveling along reasonably. We can see we've got a pretty decent amount of distance going on. We've got 33.5 minutes of burn time at the moment. Okay, let's ditch those tanks. So if we run some calculations here, we've got 33... Wait, this is going up? Why is this going up? 34 minutes of burn time? It's confused because of these tanks, I think. But yeah, this burn time is increasing right now. So I think we're going to have to wait to run calculations until we finish this particular set of tanks. Okay, so that's fine. We can definitely let that happen. We got a pretty decent amount of distance out of those 3 drop tanks. So that is a good sign for sure. And of course, keep in mind, we do have motors on these wheels now. So if we make it to the continent, we can drive, in theory, the rest of the way. In theory. So there's that. So looking at this right now, we're at 34.4 minutes of stage burn time. I don't know why that's going up necessarily. It's probably our specific impulse increasing as we get to a quote-unquote ideal altitude. I'm not sure what our ideal altitude is, but it's somewhere around here. Okay, so far so good as far as the actual journey here goes. The main question is, do we have enough fuel to get to the next continent? That's the question here. So, we're out of fuel for this particular set of tanks. They are out of here. So now we are at 100% fuel, and we can see 34 minutes. Okay, so times 60 is 2,040 seconds. We need to travel 933, multiply that by 214, and that will be 436.56 kilometers in theory. Okay. We'll have a little bit further glide beyond that. So the question is, are we going to make it to here? I wish I knew what that distance was, but just looking at a, like, straight line distance, right? That's going to end up being, like... It's going to end up being fairly close. And our surface speed is going to go up as well, so this number is going to be increased somewhat, because our overall plane mass is going to be decreasing. So our surface velocity is going to be increasing over time because our thrust to weight is going to be going up, right? I'm still not sure what parts exploded. I don't see anything missing here. Wait a second. I think it was both of our stabilizing side decouplers. I think we only have the center one at this point. That's fine. The stabilizers are actually not necessary at this point. So that seems absolutely a-okay. Cool. So we're down under 900 kilometers to the ground station at this point. But the major question remains. How is our fuel going to look? We're down to 32 minutes of stage burn time at this point. So definitely by the end of this episode, here at 2x speed, we will be through our remaining fuel. That's noted. I'm thinking we may want to nose up a little bit here. So I'm going to set this to 22 degrees. There we go. And we can see that our altitude is going to start climbing again. I just felt like we were a little bit too nose down there. And then the other question is landing. How is the landing going to go on this? It'll certainly be interesting. So fuel concerns are a big one. Landing concerns are a somewhat big one as well. If we manage to make it to here, we can theoretically drive the rest of the way to the destination. Of course, we'd like to get as close to the destination as we can. So our fuel drop tanks did carry us a decent way, and we know that we didn't have significant issues with that. We could theoretically put additional fuel drop tanks underneath the wings and go further out that way if we felt that we needed to. That's definitely an option. We're down to about 80% fuel at this point. And as we can see, we have currently traveled pretty close to 20% of the distance, but that doesn't take into account our drop tanks. So that's not our overall fuel amount. We don't have enough fuel, I don't think, to take us directly to the point we want to go to. And I also want to bring this up to a 25-degree pitch at this point. There we go. So that'll do for now. I still can't believe how well this thing flies. The next question, of course, is how is it going to do on the landing? And that's going to be real interesting. Like, if we do too much braking, well, it should be okay. We're going to want to glide in for the landing and lose as much airspeed as possible. It's going to be interesting, that's for sure. I'm probably going to make a quick save once we get over the continent, assuming we make it that far. I'm probably going to make a quick save there because I don't want to have to do this flight again if I mess up the landing, which I am slightly concerned about doing. So that's noted. I'm also noticing that we are naturally wanting to more nose down as our center of mass shifts, which isn't necessarily shocking. It's manageable. It's not shocking. So we're up to 215 meters per second right now, 216, but we are climbing in altitude at this moment. And you can see our specific impulse went to, I just saw it move, but I'm not sure what direction. It's going down? Okay. So that's noted. Our thrust to weight is going down, our specific impulse is going down. That means that we don't really want to climb more. We want to sit right at the horizon line. Dropping altitude a little bit is reasonably fine in that case. That means that we are going to have more efficient engine burning, slightly lower. That's fine. Probably somewhere around 6,500 meters would be our target position there. Note that we're up to 220 meters per second because we are dropping altitude a little bit, but we're not dropping very significantly. So that seems fine for now. Our directionality looks good. I don't think there's any problem there. Okay. So as far as the actual landing goes, that's going to be very interesting. How are we doing on battery? We're at 70 battery? Why is our battery going down right now? What is draining our battery at this moment? I wouldn't think that these would actually drain the battery. Now, to be clear, they don't have any alternator on them, so that's not necessarily surprising there. Elevons? I don't think so. Power usage of 0 watts. So what is draining our... It's the motors. Okay. Let's turn those off. I didn't realize that those were running, but actually that makes sense. They should be running, and, well, they would be running, but they shouldn't be running. We don't want them to be consuming power. At this point, we want to be building power up. So we're at 67% power right now. It's going to take this solar panel a while to build that back up. You can see that it is recharging at a rate of about 351 watts. That's really not... So we'll let that go, and these wheels are going to come to a halt eventually. So you can see that we are dropping our altitude. This is fine for the moment. So we're about 745 kilometers away from this ground station. That looks okay. And the question is, just how far are we going to get on this flying portion? Is this going to get us over this ocean and to this peninsula? It'll be close, I think. If we splash down in the water and drive underwater, are we going to have a significant amount of power flow through our solar panels? That's another question here. So that's all very interesting for sure. So we're currently dropping altitude. I'm going to bring this up by 1 degree. I'd like to more hold altitude, but we are currently climbing. Okay. Like I said, I'd like to be holding altitude. Let's just hold here for now. This will be relatively fine. I do wish that we could take this up faster than 2x. That would be really, really, really convenient. And actually, as I'm looking at this timing isn't actually working out. We're 20 minutes into this episode, and we still have 21.1 minutes left on the burn time at 2x. I don't think this burn time is accurate. Huh. Wait, why are you at 45% fuel? This is still at 100. Oh, okay. And this is still at 100 too. Okay, so I'm going to mark these as drain. I want to select you, mark as drain. Select you, mark as drain. And then we're going to pause this here. Game is currently paused. And we're going to mark this as fill. This as fill. This as fill. And this as fill. We're not actually draining out fuel from these tanks. So let's see if we can manually move these. That moved very quickly. Okay. That moved very, very quickly. So that's fine. That, of course, means that these are all completely empty now. So we can turn all of that off. There we go. And we can turn all of this off as well. We know that this is going to be 52%, right? Wait, this is still showing us 47%. I guess that's because that includes the total fuel amount in these. Yeah, that's fine. So we're at 46% right now, and all of our remaining fuel is in these wings. So that's understood. We are climbing right now, and that is because our center of mass changed. I'm going to change our angle of attack here a little bit. There we go. Let's put this about here. That'll cause us to start dropping, which is exactly what I want to see. So that looks fine for now. How far away is this? 667 kilometers. Okay. We've got 43% fuel left here, and this might not quite be enough. But it's certainly going to be close. It's certainly going to be close. So it is about time to put a cut in here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we will either be ready to land up over here, or, well, next episode we'll be ready to land up over here. If I need to run this again off camera, I will. And if I need to add additional fuel, that would be absolutely fine. So if we need to do that off camera, that's fine. I just want to be ready to land somewhere in this region, right? So that should be fine. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Atala, Andy Magar, Ali Lee, Dark Horse, Xenocyte, Hiro Marutsu, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.